Welcome to John Stuart Mill's On Liberty. Let's get this started with. Today we are going to go ahead and talk about utilitarianism and a quick summary of On Liberty. Let's get this started with. Now, On Liberty is a book by John Stuart Mill, the son of the famed economist and philosopher who's Scottish, James Mill. And he himself was also a economist and philosophist as well too. He was also a technical amateur physicist and astronomist. His specialty was economics and philosophy, particularly utilitarianism. Now in his book On Liberty, John Stuart Mill goes ahead and gives us the description of what he calls how society should be acting upon, like too. Utilitarianism, with the basis of utilitarianism in hand as well too. But here's the catch. What he calls utilitarianism is the fact that it's the most happiness in the most amount of people, and of course with that definition in mind, you can go ahead and guess what that means. John Stuart Mill himself actually had a very abnormal childhood. In his autobiography, John Stuart Mill basically went ahead and described his education, saying that by the age of 3 he was fluent in Greek, the Greek language, as well as by the age of 8 he was studying algebra and was acquainted with physics and astronomy, as well as several of Plato's dialogues and other Greek classical literatures on philosophy as well too. He never went to school, and his education was all prepared by James Mill. Also Bentham himself actually went ahead and helped James Mill out a bit. It didn't really work out that well as well too. Now, John Stuart Mill actually became a child prodigy, and with this in mind, you can go ahead and guess how he became one of the best known people on this planet. John Stuart Mill himself honestly thought that things are supposed to be the happiest. People's end goal are always to be happy. Why do you want to get a good grade? Why do you want approval of your parents? But why do you want to get that specific career? Mainly because that all those specific careers, or maybe all those good grades, will go ahead and end up being the fact that you will go ahead and become happy, mainly because you would think your main reason most likely to be so that I can become happy and that I can become fulfilled. And that's literally what Bentham says is all of our desires, just to become happy. This is the most primitive desire, and it's just one of the few primitive desires that all humans share. And so he had an abnormal childhood. He didn't play with other people his age, mainly because, well, his father prevented that from happening, because he was afraid that all these other people would go ahead and have a toll on John Stuart Mill's education. And so John Stuart Mill in his free time liked to read. At least that was the only thing he was allowed to do. He could play, but just by himself. He didn't have any brothers or sisters, so unfortunately that didn't work out for Stuart Mill, I'm guessing. John himself actually honestly thought that he was one of the most rational people of all time. James Mill probably gave him his education like this, he gave him a good education. And this isn't a biography, but On Liberty mainly does talk about his life a little bit as well too. John Stuart Mill argues that society should basically go ahead and not affect people as well too. They shouldn't interfere with the lives of other people, like lives and actions of other people, unless those lives and actions are going ahead and harming other people as well too. This has came to be known as the harm principle. Now, the harm principle goes ahead and even gives us a few things as well too. This isn't stated in the book, but James Mill himself actually gave us hedonic calculus, which basically is a way to calculate how much happiness is inside a group. Now, there are a few things that we can go ahead and say here too. The moral principles, the harm principle itself also goes ahead and tells us that we shouldn't harm others. We shouldn't do this unless it harms the other person. But the word harm is also pretty broad, so we still have a few problems with John Stuart Mill's On Liberty as well too. This also reminds me of the trolley problem. Anyone who's read Justice will probably know what I'm talking about. The trolley problem itself is basically there's a trolley and there are 5 people tied up to the road. But on another road, that if you flick a lever and it will switch to the road, then it would end up going to the one person, only one person who's tied on track. Now, what do? You would probably want to say to flick the lever, right? Well, no, maybe, sure, but if you do it, there might be blood. There's definitely blood on your hands. You've killed someone, and it's your fault. But if you do nothing, then that saying isn't exactly your fault, but you have the power to do something. So, isn't that doesn't that technically make it your fault as well too? That 5 people died instead of 1? But then again, let's think of it this other way too. That one person is the president of the United States of America, and the other 5 are just some beggars, as well as one congressman who we have no idea who he is. Now, would you save the president of the United States of America, or would you save the 5 beggars? Now, let's say that one of the one of the people, or the 5 people tied the track is a family member or someone you care a lot about so much that you would rather not see them die, and you would rather die before them. Now, what would you do? Would you want to save your dad, or whoever is the most person who you love, or the president of the United States of America? Which one do you choose? If you choose your dad, well, the country is screwed, but if you choose the president of the United States of America, you might get a few honors, but you'll probably feel guilty as now you have blood on your hands and you just killed your father. John Stuart Mill himself went ahead and gave us these principles a lot too in On Liberty. On Liberty's whole point is to go ahead and tell us that society shouldn't touch each other unless they're harming each other too. Then we also have this other dilemma called the fat man problem, which basically says there's this fat man in front of you on a bridge. There's 5 people tied to a track. If you slow the fat man down, you can save the 5 people, but you would try to slow it down yourself, but you calculate that you won't be heavy enough to stop the trolley. No. But the fat man is heavy enough to stop the trolley or to keep them from getting squashed. And so if you slow down the fat man, well, you kill the fat man. But you will have to save 5 people. I hate these dilemmas a lot because they are designed to go ahead and make you want to throw the fat man overboard, or you want to go ahead and flick the lever. And this isn't actually how life is supposed to work. John Stuart Mill may have been one of the oddballs of history, but at least he was able to be professional in his writing as well too. John Stuart Mill, who wrote On Liberty to go ahead and show us the problems of today's modern society, and that we shouldn't touch each other. Just let him live his way of life as long as no one is physically harmed or mentally harmed at that too. But you can't just keep racism out of hand, you can't just go ahead and let people be racist and make them public about it, because, well, then there is someone going to be harmed eventually, mentally, if not physically. John Stuart Mill is one of those people who go ahead and show us how we live our lives the best and most fullest possible way. We can go ahead and do things a particular way, or we can go ahead and do things another way as well too. John Stuart Mill's On Liberty shows us utilitarianism in a more less utilitarian light than his father and Jeremy Bentham have ever thought of. So if you want to go ahead and see how John Stuart Mill wants us to live society, then I want you to read On Liberty, and then eventually go ahead and probably live your lives well too with these morals. Also, probably not exactly, because there are going to be problems, but if anyone was a utilitarian of either kind, whether it's rule utilitarianism or just harm utilitarianism, well, you can go ahead and hope the world will be a less happier place, and probably a place where everyone is in constant fear of their organs being harvested. So I hope to see you guys in the next episode, and then until then, shout out, peace, bye bye.